We are very fortunate indeed, Professor Giorgio Bellettini, who is a physicist of great renown, who has worked at the CERN, or should we say CERN in English, in Geneva, in Switzerland, which is one of the leading centers for the research in the field of physics. He's also worked at the National Laboratories of Frascati in Italy, and he has been working for quite some time at the FermiLab. He has achieved extensive successes, contributing to many fundamental discoveries in the field of contemporary physics. He has also founded a cultural association of Italians at Fermi. Please welcome Professor Bellettini. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The title is there, you see, Enrico Fermi's legacy. And I started with this statement by a colleague, a younger colleague of Enrico, famous Nobel Prize later. And he says correctly, the most respected and admired of all the great physicists of the 20th century. The 20th century in particular, the first 50 years of the 20th century, was an incredible period for fundamental physics, particle physics. Many first-class people showed up and many fundamental theories were established. So, but Enrico had a special personality because of his friendly attitude. I comment during the talk a little more on this. Briefly, I decided to give you an outline, sort of a summary of what we will go through. He was professor of theoretical physics in Rome in 26. He was 25 years old at that point. Nobel Prize in 38. Then, just before the war, he moved to the US, and he worked on the first atomic pipe at Chicago, which showed for the first time a controlled nuclear reaction. And then he collaborated to the Manhattan Project in Los Alamos later, 42 to 45. Then after the war, he came back. He came to Chicago, and he was professor here until his early days, because he died very, very young. He was 53 actually, so it was a big loss for physics. This is how he was at the young boy. He was a very normal young. At the university, I found a nice comment on what his attitude and the approach to mathematics was at the university, because one of his professors saw him dealing with many books, told him, look, save these books because you will need them for reference in the future when you will be a physicist. He said, no, I don't think I need them because I know I will remember them. The Scuola Normale Superiore of Pisa is the most famous high standard university in Pisa. He was, of course, you of course have to be selected. You have a selection board at the entrance, so he was easily entered the school and was there for those 4 years, 1822. But the impressive thing was that he was clearly showing more knowledge of physics and mathematics than of his professors, and there are many stories of his professor asking him to explain to them special relativity or advanced mathematics. And then at that time he showed that although he was very good in mathematics, his dream was actually to contribute to physics. And this is a statement that is found in the books. I studied mathematics with passion because I considered it necessary for the study of physics, to which I want to dedicate myself exclusively. He was able to handle all the problem, all type of physics. And he was very modest, and he did not look like an Italian. This is a joke, because the Italians are not so seen in general. But the fact that he did not really love so fancy food, not at all drinks, or not at all fancy clothes. So he didn't care about showing that he had big prize. Even the Nobel Prize that he got, he was hardly used to mention it. He was trying just to forget about that. Sometimes he had he needed a passport, for example, a visa, and he was inquired, what are your credentials? And then eventually he said, well, I also got the Nobel Prize. So he was a very simple person in love. The first big achievement, actually, and probably the most far-reaching one, was in Rome, when trying to study the property of neutrons. For some reason, the neutrons were showing funny effects, and he tried to slow them down and tried to reduce the effects, and he eventually hit some material with slow neutrons, and the radioactivity was supposed to be reduced by this slowing down, exploded, became enormously intensive. So the bigger discovery was this radioactivity induced on uranium by neutrons when the neutrons were slow. And in fact, the power of these neutrons as in fact initiators, a carrier of nuclear reactions in the nuclear reaction chain was the most far-reaching discovery for him, for the welfare of humanity. Fermi in this country, he was at the first at Columbia, most of the time at Chicago, to build a reactor, which is a self-sustained power producer in a way, and using natural uranium, which is not very good, of course, for producing energy, but you can still make a self-sustaining reactor with natural uranium, which was named the first atomic pile. And as I already mentioned before, this can be considered as the greatest contribution that he has given to the welfare of mankind, this atomic. So Fermi, the Royal Swedish Academy of Science has awarded you the Nobel Prize for Physics in '38 for your discovery of new radioactive substances belonging to the entire field of elements. Actually, this was not actually true. At that time, people thought that these effects, effect induced by slow neutrons, proved that there were new elements beyond the normal Mendeleev chain, and this actually was not the reason why there was such a radioactivity. So the motivation of the Nobel Prize is slightly incorrect. So new elements, and for the discoveries which you made in the course of your studies of the selective powers of slow neutrons, which was very good. Fermi was Italian. He loved to be in Italy, but he left Italy at the moment just after having received the Nobel Prize. Has created the modern physics in Italy. It's hard to believe how big a change he produced in physics in our country. Basically, the modern physics, like wave mechanics, relativity, and such, was not existing in Italy in '27. In '27, the first chair of theoretical physics in the University was created. Before then, there was not even one theoretical physics chair. In Rome, he created a very famous group of young physicists, which was named the Fermi Boys. He created that group in a couple of years. And now look at the age. Segre, Maldi was 18, Emilio Segre was 21, Majorana, all these names later. Majorana is a famous high standard theorist who disappeared for mysterious reasons. He was 21, Rasetti was a great instrumentally gifted physicist, 26. So you see, these people are extremely young. They hardly, they were not to get their university degree. So, and all of them faded away from Italy at the start of the war. Only Amaldi decided to stay in Italy. And even so, even if Amaldi was left alone in Italy, when the war was over, in the name of Fermi, Amaldi was able to recruit new people, to get support from the government, and in fact to somehow continue and secure the scientific standard of Italian physics, which actually was justified only by the presence of Fermi, but the roots which have been created by Fermi being a teacher there were very, very strong, and so Amaldi was able to build on those. And this is the famous Globotron that he designed. Imagine that the best you can do on the Earth is to build a ring, a set of magnets where particles go through periodically and get more and more accelerated during running around. And so he said that assuming the maximum magnetic field intensity of those days, that one could get to 5,000 TeV maximum with an hypothetical accelerator running around the Earth. But it, of course, he lectured in Italy for the first time in '54 after the war. It was a famous lecture. I was at the university. I remember that, although I did not know much about Fermi, only have seen a couple of books, but this famous Italian physicist was eventually back to Italy, was lecturing in Verona, but I was not old enough. I was still doing my exams, so I could not go to Verona, so I never met myself Enrico Fermi. After my laurea, my degree, I went to Rome and worked with Edoardo Mandi, who was his youngest boy, I remember. So in a way, I got comments and information about the style of Enrico by Edoardo, later on by Giuseppe Cocconi, who also was a CERN with whom I worked, and he was a good friend of him. But unfortunately, I did not meet him myself. This is one of the last. Pictures that we have of Enrico. I put the comment that cancer is a very subtle disease. He felt a little sick, but he looked like you can see on the Italian Alps in summer '54, and he died 4.5 months after.
You refer to the group of the Panisperna physicists, the Fermi boys. It was, as you suggested, an incredible combination of talents, so young, and they all somehow faded away or left, all except Amaldi. What happened to the studies of physics in Italy?
There was some other center in Turin, it was not just only Rome, but I wanted to highlight the fact exactly that although the group had disappeared, but Amaldi, just using the name of Fermi, and the feeling, I guess, it's a question of interpretation, because there was nobody else there. And Italy was destroyed, and Amaldi was still very young himself, but he was able to somehow get the support by the government and start physics groups, and all in the name of Fermi. It was, I guess, right, this way of studying, it had been going around for enough years, even if there was a big war, such that the roots have been set. In fact, it is surprising that there was nothing left of Fermi. Fermi was here, and all the other people had vanished away. Even so, Italy, after the war, bloomed very quickly. We became big supporters of CERN. We built the first electron synchrotron Frascati, the highest energy one at those time, very soon. And so it was in the name of Fermi. And was it enough?
I always wonder where they get the energy to run the particle accelerators. For instance, in CERN, it must take a lot of energy for that.
Oh yeah, you have hundreds of megajoules. Yes, you need lots of electricity. Now, how the energy is transferred from the plug to the particles is rather intriguing. Through radio waves, basically. You move and push the particles with traveling waves, and they get a forward acceleration. But true, is the factor between the plug energy and the beam energy is enormous. You need a lot of electricity to do that.
Yes. What?
Thanks to the short-sightedness of our government and our Congress, there was a project that was arrested in mid-flight at Waco, Texas. There was supposed to be a superconducting super collider accelerator, which, if it had been completed, would have certainly rivaled with the LHC at CERN. The problem is that funding, although already $2 billion had been spent to start the construction of this super collider at Waco, Texas, the cost was projected to be $8 billion, and Congress did not didn't want to dish out the money, so the process was aborted, and that's really a shame.
That was a machine which would have been 3 times eventually. Today it would have been 5 times more energetic than the CERN machine, and certainly would have competed with success, I believe, with the CERN machine, because it was also an easier design. But money is important apparently, and so that was cancelled.
So thank you ever so much for this wonderful presentation.